fairly certain my ring light has officially crapped out on me, so we are doing this with natural light today, and I have no idea how it's gonna go because it's been very stormy. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video, we are gonna be doing my August wrap-up. Alright, before we get into anything bookish today, y'all, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments what was the best book that you read in August. No, I don't have a gigantic stack in comparison to July, but even so, I do think I still had a fairly decent reading month. As per usual, I'm only going to be talking about the books in this wrap-up that I read in August, but are not tied to a specific video for, say, a themed vlog. For example, my Second Chances reading vlog came out this month, so go watch the actual vlog to get full thoughts for those books. However, I do still have a fair few to talk to y'all about. So in August, I read 9 books, and across those books, I read 3,505 pages. That did include converting audiobook hours, 2 pages, but in regard to audiobook hours, I listened to about 41 hours this month. It was about 100 less than what I listened to in July. My average rating was 3.92 stars, so not too bad, a little on the lower side. And then I did unfortunately have 2 DNFs. For my genres, I had 1 fantasy novel, 2 horror, 1 manga, 4 romance, and then 1 sci-fi. For the little goals I keep for myself, from that you can tell that I did read a comic or manga. Unfortunately though, I did not read a nonfiction book. I did, however, read a book that was more than 450 pages, so pat myself on the back for that one. Then for my series stats, I unfortunately started into 4 new series. I continued 2. I didn't finish any, but I did make the decision that I will not be continuing with one of them. Now let's jump into the reviews for the month. I'm just gonna go chronologically, make this nice and easy. So the first book I finished in August was Slam Dunked by Love by Jamie Wesley. This is part of my Buns and Roses TBR jar, which is a series I am doing for the next few months. If you have missed that, I'll put a link to the playlist in the cards up above so you can get a quick little snippet of what that's about, but then come back here for the full review because I really enjoyed this one. In this book, we're alternating back and forth between Caitlin and Brady. Brady is a professional basketball player who has recently gotten traded to this team, but has unfortunately developed a bit of a reputation for being difficult to work with. And then on the opposite side, Caitlin is actually planning to confront her father, the coach for this team, for abandoning her mother 26 years prior. These two meet when Caitlin gets a flat on the way to a basketball event, and Brady is kind enough to help her, only to then ask she return the favor by pretending to be his fake date to this event so that the owner's daughter can't hit on him. As I said, I really like this, not just because it's set in Dallas. I actually think these two were just so much fun to watch. The flirting, the teasing, the inside jokes between them just really convinced me of a relationship developing here. Their chemistry totally sold me, and thank God the fake dating element didn't get overused. It wasn't drawn out for too long. It wasn't constantly being used as a crutch to keep the two of them apart. I was a little hesitant about Brady going into this book because with sports romances, I don't know why, I just sort of expect the guys to be alpha males, but they very rarely are, at least in the books I have read. And while he does come across that way a little bit in the beginning, he actually is this really sweet guy who's very caring. Unfortunately, he's just been burned a lot of times because of his stardom and his money, so he's got some walls up at the start. And naturally, with a romance involving a celebrity, Caitlin wasn't immediately wooed by him, so he in turn is infatuated with her. But there was actual substance behind his attraction to her, which I really appreciated. Because of Caitlin's background, she's very wary of getting involved with a superstar, a big name basketball player. But again, the way it was used felt much more realistic and not super stereotypical to this sort of a story. Wesley just genuinely convinced me that these two were made for each other. Oh my God, and then also the spice, hello. I was a little nervous about the third act conflict with this one because it was shaping up to be an external thing, but I was worried it was gonna explode in such a way that I wouldn't be convinced of a reconciliation between these two, and thankfully that did not happen. I really appreciated the fact that both these characters grew from knowing one another. It was absolutely a really good read, and even though I think it's like the 3rd or the 4th in this series, I am planning to go back and read the rest of them because this went fantastically. 4.5 stars. I highly recommend. So what with starting another series, I decided to try and continue one with Soul Eater Volume 18 by atsushi ohkubo. Talked about this manga series many a times now, but basically in this world, we have people who are either weapons or meisters and work for the Shinigami Lord Death himself. Now, this is 18 out of 25. We are very deep into the plot. A lot has changed from where the series starts. I'm not going to go into too many more specifics, but our main 3 teams we are following, actually, I think at this point it's 4 teams. 5 teams? Actually, at this point, it is 4 teams. But they're on a mission trying to rescue a friend, end up entering into this villain's book. And each chapter of the book is one of the 7 deadly sins. So because of that, I will say at the start, there's a lot of teenage humor. And I think there's a few choice words that really aren't cool to use today, but this was still a really freaking wild time and very entertaining. There was one really good, I don't even know if I would quite say it like a fight scene, mental battle that's going on, and I'm continuing to really love this series. I can't wait to continue on with the next one. Not really surprising. Didn't move the plot forward too much though, so this was a 4-star, but still an enjoyable time. For my long book of the month, I finally got around to Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. I picked this up for a in-person book club I do where we needed to read a fantastical book with a heist. And this book actually starts in the middle of a heist where our main character, Sancha, is trying to steal something, but she doesn't really understand what that is. And turns out, once she gets her hands on this, it's not so easy for her to hand it over, but it has way bigger repercussions than she's expecting and literally starts to cause so much uproar in this fantastical world. I really liked this. This is one of those books where I don't think you should know too much going in. Second, this was also one of those books where I'm genuinely so mad at myself for taking so long to pick it up because I really enjoyed it. So much about this book worked really well for me because I love heist stories. You son of a bitch, I'm in! Ironically, one aspect of the book I do think let me down a little bit was the characters, as I just didn't feel like I had really fallen in love with them by the end of the book. I really liked everybody. I saw what role they played in this team, and there were the beginnings of some really interesting dynamics between them. But I did want more from the character elements specifically. However, there was enough there that I'm so intrigued to see what's going to happen with all of these different characters in the next book. It's rare, but sometimes world building and really cool magic systems will win out for me over characters, and this kind of was one of those situations. The magic system here was very original, very unique, and just unlike any other novel I've read so far. I have heard some comparisons to Brandon Sanderson, but I've yet to dive into his stuff, so I can't personally make that comparison. I'm just sharing what I've heard. I love how each new element of the magic system was presented and explained, and it built on the prior bits, but it also would start to unravel the society's utilization of the magic system. I also really like how the magic was used to allow 2 characters to communicate, and then also for a different character to kind of almost ride the line as like a mad scientist. That was a lot of fun. Like I said, I am a heist fan personally, and so I think the fact that the starts in the middle of one kind of, gets you intrigued by that, pulls you in, and then you watch the fallout of it only for a new heist to have to be set up. And because of that setup, I adore the fact that Bennett included some of those integral scenes that are just necessary to a heist story. Gathering the crew, finding a secret hideout, unveiling all of these cool gadgets created to make this heist work, and then inevitably something is going to go wrong, and seeing how they try to make the plan work with this new obstacle in place. It was just so much fun. The bits of the bigger plot that is revealed here though has me itching for the next book. I am definitely going to be continuing the series. I just have to make time for that, which is really hard right now. But I can't wait. I cannot wait. This was so much fun. 4.5 stars. So good. Next, I read This Wretched Valley by Jenny Kiefer, which was the Full Moon Book Club. And we're following this team who are exploring this section of the woods, and they end up finding these mountains that are unmarked, are undocumented. And while some of them are going through marking them, we also have like a professional climber who is hoping to put her name on this mountain. And then we have some other people who are researching like the different pieces of nature around this area. This was a book that I read. I think the cover is really stunning and the idea is pretty cool, but God, I could not stand the characters in this story. I definitely think this is one of those horror books where you're not rooting for them to get out at the end. And though it could have been fun watching them get knocked off one by one, Unfortunately, it took too long for that to really start going and make it like an enjoyable experience. Wow, that sounds really dark. The basic idea of the story should be scary, but I didn't actually find this book scary. There were some creepy scenes when it came to like the imagery and the setting. There was one specific kill that was very good when it came to the gore, but that was about it. The plot itself felt kind of repetitive in how it was broken down, and then I think the irritating one-note characters just like made the repetitive experience so much more annoying, and it really exacerbated the fact that like nothing was really happening. It felt like forever before the final evil was really revealed, but even then I wasn't really a fan of how it was used. I'm starting to learn that I do like having a piece of commentary in my horror stories, and I couldn't really suss one out here. So again, that means it should be more focused on like the enjoyable elements of the story, and I just didn't really enjoy this. I think this is a good B-rated horror movie kind of book. It just doesn't really hold up in comparison to so many other horror books I've read. Unfortunately, it just didn't really work out. This was just a basic 3-star. Finally, I read The Rough Rider by Maisey Yates. I was so impressed with the character work here. Backing up a little bit, this is the 4th book in a cowboy romance series. I want to say this is set in like Wyoming, maybe. It's a very long series. If you like cowboy romances, definitely check out Maisey Yates. She's got tons of them. In this one, we are following Elena, who is the youngest of her sisters and just recently has figured out that she's pregnant from a one-night stand. While she is planning to keep the child, she doesn't want it to be raised in a broken home. She's concerned about what the people in her small town are going to think about her, especially after her best friend ends up marrying the guy she has a crush on. Things are just going really poorly for her. But in swoops Gus, her childhood hero, who constantly has to save the day, and he does so again by offering to marry her. I was so impressed with the character work done here. The depth that is explored in Elena and Gus's backgrounds was fantastic. Elena has abandonment issues, and Gus has some physical scars to go along with his mental ones, some really heavy mental ones. He also has that hero mentality where he has to be the one to save the day, but more often than not, he ends up suffering because of it. Their trauma just felt very well presented, and then the way we were starting to see some healing happen between the two of them as they're realizing they're worthy of love was very great. I really enjoyed that. Where this book fell down for me, and honestly a big reason of why I unfortunately decided to not finish it, is the tropes that were used here. First off, this is an age gap romance. I believe Elena's like 24 and Gus is like 33. So a fairly decent age gap between the two of them. But I didn't like that the way their relationship in the past was presented was always very sibling-esque. And then Gus refers to Elena by Might as a pet name. And that's not really romantic in my eyes. That's more sibling behavior again, and I didn't love that. I don't know, it was really weird to me. Maybe it's because I have a similar age gap to like my older brother. So while the basis of the story was really good, very intriguing to me, and I was wanting to enjoy it, the way the tropes were being used just wasn't up my alley. So this was very much like, this was not a bad book, it just wasn't a book for me. But the writing itself was so well done around the characters that I do want to try more from Maisey Yates and see maybe if a different book with other tropes would work better. I did DNF it, but there were some really positive aspects to it. So I still recommend it if you can handle those tropes, or if you look at some of her other backlists, because like I said, she has a lot of cowboy romances, and I know those are having a hot moment right now. So on that note, that is it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials, as well as a few ways you can support me, linked in the description. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a cowboy emoji, or like, you know, the hat, the little smiley face with the hat on. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!